You know, guys, I think it's really important to listen to the other side with an open mind and an honest heart. Um, and try to always do it in good faith for sure. So I want to look at what these Republican voters are talking about. I believe in Iowa. Not 100% sure. I think that's what it is. It'll correct me in a moment. But either way, I like to listen to what other people have to say and what they like to think. I think some of my most interesting conversations in trying to get people to vote is they a lot of them happen with Republicans, and then I find myself agreeing a lot of the time with many of them. So let's take a listen. See what this thing is talking about.
Throughout this year, Judy Woodruff has been examining divisions across the country. For her latest story, she listened in on focus groups in Iowa with two-time Trump voters as they talked about how they feel about the state of the nation, the divisiveness they see, and who they feel is responsible for it. A note, we've chosen not to include the participants' full names after some received harassing calls following an earlier story. This story was produced with our friends at Iowa PBS and is part of Judy's ongoing series, America at a Crossroads.
I definitely think the country's headed in the wrong direction, and unfortunately, I think we're on that downhill slide that I'm not sure it can be turned around.
That was a common feeling among the 16 two-time Trump voters we gathered recently at the studio of Iowa PBS in Johnston for a pair of focus groups led by Republican strategist and pollster Sarah Longwell.
In Iowa, we have a great governor, we have great leadership. However, when you look at the country as a whole, it just seems like everybody has said the country's just going down the tubes.
I agree with all the different economics and all that, but we are so polarized that we can't come to a common ground.
I mean, it almost feels a little bit like a civil war.
Following the panels, I sat down with Longwell, who conducts focus groups.
That's interesting. I mean, the Civil War was fought because of racism and slavery, and definitely not the same thing going on, but hundreds of thousands of people are in jail. Most of them are black. Police brutality is still a huge problem. Health disparities for black people are still a huge problem. Let's just keep listening.
With both Republicans and Democrats to talk through what we'd heard.
But mainly the things that you hear, and I hear this all the time from Republicans, is they really feel like the country's going in the wrong direction. Yeah. They want a Republican back in power very badly.
In terms of these Republican voters and their view of how divided the country is, what came across to you the most about that?
Well, everybody does think we're divided. That is clear. In the focus groups we did tonight and in the focus groups I do all the time, people are, they talk about things like a national divorce or a civil war. They feel like we're at each other's throats. How many of you think we're very divided? Raise your hands if you think we're an extremely divided country. Mm-hmm. Whose fault do you think it is that we're so divided?
The media.
Media?
Media, for sure.
People who don't want to deal with racism. It's real simple. We need to seriously deal with all the injustice in this damn country. That's why we're so divided. Because for some reason, people think that Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech ended racism, and some other people just can't believe that America can be a disgustingly racist country. I'm not trying to shit on everything. I'm just saying, man, like, What can you do?
Perpetuate the hate. I mean, they do it on purpose. They have an agenda, and it is to divide, and that's what they seek, and that's what they're doing.
That's how they get ratings. That's how they get money.
Exactly, because that's where the money is.
And I'm curious, where are you getting your information? Like, where are you? What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to?
I watch Blaze TV and Fox News, and I have Truth Social, and I'm all over Twitter, and I watch Channel 13, NBC all the time.
News junkie.
I like to know what's going on.
Ray Travis and Buck Sexton took over Rush Limbaugh's show. They're good. I mean, these guys, they look into things. They know things. Sean Hannity is really good also.
I think I'm smart enough to understand when I'm being manipulated, all right? So I will have to say is I read everything. I listen to everything, and then what goes in, what goes out, and then I just make up my own decision.
I'm going to blame the media and also...
Black men staying super neutral. I mean, that word salad was just some kind of, I mean, that's what everybody does. It goes in, it goes out, and I make my decision. Yeah, I guess that's what we all do. I don't know.
Social media. I think, I think back like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it didn't seem so divided, and it's driven me to, seek out different news sources now to get my news so I can compare, like Real America's Voice and Newsmax.
Not news.
You, Mary?
So I agree with what you were saying. So social media is a huge thing in my opinion, because you don't have a personal relationship with the people mostly online, or like what I would say to you right now in person would be completely different than what I might say on social media.
So it sounds like you guys blame the media, social media.
That sounds like a you problem. That sounds like something. That's something that you're deciding to do. You're the one changing up.
Media for the division. How do you feel about Democrats in general?
Generally, anytime that there's a fight between two people, there's never usually one side that's like 100% right. It's always somewhere in the middle. And so I'm not ever going to say like this side's completely right and this side's completely wrong.
Do you guys have friends and family who are Democrats?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mother.
Yes.
And how do you do with that? Is it tense? Can you talk to each other? How is it?
Recently spent some time with some relatives that are Democrat, and you really can't talk about Trump or Republicans in that house. I mean, it's just, tread lightly there.
My closest inner circle is mostly like-minded. They vote Republican or pretty conservative, but outside of that, I try to avoid conversations because they're just never productive. No one's changing anyone's mind.
I did hear them say that they blame.
You guys are not trying hard enough, man. You gotta stop quitting. Pete, you gotta give people way more credit, man. And that's what I try to do when I talk to them. I'm just relentless with the empathy, with the love, with the facts, with the honesty. You just gotta and even if you fail with one, that's cool. Pick somebody else and try to change their mind. I recently had a conversation with a brother, a white brother at work, who we were both watching ESPN, and out of nowhere he just said F Brittany Griner. I was like, whoa. I ain't get mad at nothing, but I'm one of the many people that was not only advocating, but really was happy to see her get out of that Russian prison when she came home. So when he said it, it threw me off a little bit. So I was curious. I'm like, yo, bro, why would you say F Brittany Griner? Like she just came home from being, political prisoner or what have you. It's like, oh well, she came home, and then there's other vets that are still in there, and they just like how she committed a crime. She had weed, it's her fault. Blah 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 blah. But little did this brother know that Brittany Griner has went on public record and said that she's going to advocate to get more of these brothers and sisters who are political prisoners in Russia back home. She said that's the one thing she's going to do as soon as she finishes the season. And people are trying to spin a narrative because she's a black queer woman who plays basketball, and you know, conservatives media needs to demonize somebody. But let's just keep it all the way real. 2 people got sent home before Brittany Griner did. And I would argue that 100% had something to do with the fact that Brittany Griner was so famous and she got locked up for that BS, and all these black people just voted Joe Biden into the presidency. So no, we wasn't having it. She definitely needed to come home. And she had nothing to do with that Ukraine war, so she needed to come home. And by the grace of God, 2 more people got to come home before she did. And now we know about all the other political prisoners that are stuck over there in Russia, and we can advocate and fight for them. So I don't look at this as a loss. And if you find a way to be mad about it, you know what I'm saying, I don't think you really truly appreciate the situation. And that's ultimately what I told this brother. And he changed his mind. He simply said, man, I didn't even know Brittany Griner was advocating for them for POWs to come home and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, bro. Like, people try to spin a narrative on people. And at the end of the day, man, like, you can't be quick to judge. And that's why, to me, watching this video is so important. So let's just get back to it. You know, I don't want to talk for too long.
Blame the media. I also heard them say that they were reluctant to bring up their views with people who disagree with them politically for fear that they would be criticized, they would be called out.
Yeah, I do hear this all the time. People feeling like they can't talk about their support for President Trump or can't say that they're a Republican without fear of being shouted down. I think that both parties, members of both parties, sort of feel like it's really hot out there, and when you sort of wear your politics on your sleeve, that it's inviting a kind of combative experience. And I think they feel like a real difference from how people used to be able to sort of agree to disagree maybe 10, 15 years ago, and now they feel like it gets really personal really fast.
Another key division was over questions of faith and what it means for people's politics.
Do you believe that it's possible to be sort of very liberal, very progressive, but also be of deep Christian faith?
No. No.
That's crazy. 'Cause I don't look at you like that. Even though you go to rallies with Confederate flags around you, even though you vote against the interests of poor and working class people and minorities, particularly black people, even though you try to strip public schools, which are the primary, literally primary educator for the majority of students in these urban cities and surrounding areas. Like, I don't say that about you.
No.
Tell me more. Go ahead.
You can't, life is, well, very important. And if you're liberal, then you're pro-choice, and then you believe that it's okay to kill a baby. And I don't believe that you can believe that and be a real Christian.
Because we don't believe that they're an actual baby. When you are trying to compare it and weigh it against all the things that you have to do in your life, and the financial burden that you will then be presented with, and oh, by the way, you may have a terrible partner that you mistakenly chose. To call it a baby is a stretch, especially when you don't intend to make a baby. You're not looking at it like that. And pretending like that's not what it really is, and just saying and charging it to, oh, well, you just want to kill a baby. It's disingenuous. Sounds like BS to me.
What do you think?
I mean, technically, I guess you could be, but that would mean you're not, I don't know, allowing God's love to be in you as much and stuff. So
I don't think that the Democrats, I hate to say it like that, I hate to segregate the party, they have too many, yeah, but what if? But yeah, but what if I don't feel like a girl? So whatever God made me a boy, but I don't feel like a boy, and so I'm going to change that. It's just messing with creation. It's just messing with the absolute.
So
I can understand why you have that position. I, to some degree, lean in that way. However, you can't say that for them. You can say that for you. I can say that I believe that for me, but I can't say that for a person who feels that way, who literally thinks that way. Why do you even care? That's the real question. Why do y'all even care about these people so much?
So when Joe Biden, I know he's a Catholic. Do you think that he's not Catholic?
I mean, you know, your original question, God is more of a God of just love. He's a God of right and wrong. He's a God of truth. He's a God of righteousness. I mean, you can't be liberal and be far left on beliefs and then say, oh, I'm a Christian. Well, you can say it. That's the worst thing. People do say it. But they don't understand.
There were strong views expressed about whether it's possible to be a Democrat, to be liberal, and have a strong Christian faith. It's almost a barrier.
Yeah, people can be really paradoxical. They can sort of express one thing.
She means narrow-minded. That's what she means. You people don't have a monopoly on the faith. You don't get to have that. And since I know you can't read God's mind, I'm going to tell you that I believe in taking care of working class people, protecting precious trans and LGBTQ plus A rights. I assure you, I can believe in all of that. I can believe in paying police officers more money instead of inflating the military part of their budget. I want to put more money in schools, and I want to do that all while praising Jesus Christ on Sundays. What are you talking about?
In thinking about it one way and then express sort of the complete opposite if they're thinking about something else in a different frame. You could hear on one hand people saying, well, I'd really like us to get along more, and I want us to have shared values and have these good conversations. And then you'd also hear them say, but I don't think that you can be a real Christian and be a progressive. They didn't think those things were compatible. And
when it came to the idea of their children marrying someone of the opposite party, feelings were mixed.
Would any of you or all of you be okay if your child married a Democrat?
My child did marry a Democrat, a Democrat lawyer. It didn't go well.
Is it still not going well?
No, we are estranged.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, yeah.
My daughters are both very liberal, which pains me, but I support them in their beliefs and try to have conversations with them about what I believe and why I believe that way. And so, but I don't try to change them. I just let them know how I believe and why I believe that way. But if they choose to marry a Democrat, I will support them 100%.
And that in itself is the root issue.
And there was even some pushback to our framing of some of these questions along partisan lines.
We're all made in the image of God. We're all valued by the Creator. Why are we dividing Democrat and Republican? Like, my mom's a liberal Democrat, and I work in something completely different, and we have the most loving relationship. It's because I don't identify our relationship based on Democrat, Republican.
Right. That brother gets it. That brother's the only one that seems to, my man Brian, is the only one that seems to make sense at this point. That brother gets it. We have to see each other's humanity. We have to see each other for the best of what we are. We can't just continuously go down this rabbit hole of culture war BS. I care about what my conservative, Republican family members want and care about. And I have to step out in good faith and show them that I actually do, so that they can, so when I'm telling them and I'm showing them that I'm not playing, that they know that I'm passionate about it. That will maybe hopefully they'll fight for me too. You see what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem in the country.
Yep. One of the things about doing the focus groups across the political spectrum, every week now for years, is oftentimes Americans are closer on a number of things than you might think, and people tend to overestimate how different the other side is from them, or at how mad they would be. And some of this comes down to the fact that we are now geographically very segregated as a country. We are, tend to have bluer cities and redder sort of rural areas. And so the less people talk to each other, the less they have a really good frame of reference for how somebody might actually think. Oftentimes people are a little more tolerant, and they want us to get along. Like, they express the fact that they sort of lament being this divided, and they talk in terms of wanting America to be a place where you can talk about your disagreements and not feel like it's going to be so fraught.
And so, a mixed picture from these Trump voters in Iowa. Some wish for less division and blame the news media, especially social media. And yet they have strong personal views about Democrats, are divided on having one in the family, and question if progressive politics and Christianity can coexist. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Judy Woodruff.
So, I live in West Virginia. Right now, we have terrible internet service in our suburban areas. It's horrible half the time. That's not going to benefit me. It's going to benefit primarily, mostly, Republican voting constituents in my state, and I desperately, I really want them to have what they need. I want them to have low interest rates and have their kids go to amazing public schools if they can't afford private schools. Like, I don't understand why we have to have this space where we do divide each other. But I know this ain't no universe where I would be a Republican, because they play too close to white supremacy. They play too close to these racists, and ain't nobody got time for that, bro. There's too much anti-blackness over there. I'm good on that. It's too much denial. If they spend more time trying to get working class people higher wages, which they don't want to do, if they actually wanted to really, really end child poverty, which they don't talk about. Like, our country could do these things, and we just don't do them. So, that's that. Much love. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Appreciate you.